Okay, here we are starting to draw. Every work of painting starting with the sketch. This one is pretty simple, and I will not use my usual routine. Usually what I do, I will create a sketch on a separate piece of paper and then transfer it onto my watercolor paper to avoid any excessive, fiddling with the surface, because it can easily get flaky. But today I can't see any reason to do that. I'll just explain essential steps, what involved when you're trying to make the picture of the object. Before you start, we need to create a composition or properly position our picture within your future work space. So if we imagine this is our watercolor paper placed in landscape way, okay, like this. We have a single object. The general rule for a placing, for a composition of single objects, it's never supposed to be sitting in the middle of your artboard. So we will call it artboard, okay? So that position, no, okay? Wrong. So instead, it has to be placed slightly towards the left or towards the right, depending on the position of your shadow. For instance, if you have, say, our pumpkin with the shadow this way, like that, we move it more towards the right. It's logical, because that is now whole composition that we thinking about. If we have other way around, that object should be moved towards left side. This is the first thing. The second thing, it also never should be located in the middle of the page in a vertical perspective. So say if this is the bottom and the top of the stem is here, right? So that is the top. Margin there and margin at the bottom supposed to be different. Obviously here supposed to be bigger, okay? It also needs to be shifted slightly up. So now we know how to place it, but how exactly we do it. Before we do anything, we need to create what I normally call like a boundary box. It's a placeholder for whole your future object or objects. In our today's case is just one object, and unfortunately when I printed it, you can see I didn't notice that, but it was too late. The stem didn't fit, so I need to think about this next time. But if we consider, you can see the whole picture on the screen, and it looks, if our pumpkin somewhat oval shape, right? But with the stem, it practically creates a perfect square. So we need to measure it to make sure it's correct and see what are proportion between height and width. How exactly it's done. When we can touch the object, can we reach out for it, hold maybe an apple that we're drawing or painting, tomato or reference picture, we can have direct access to it. We can use our pencil to measure vertical and across and see how it differs. Of course, I have to think about my stem, and I think so I will create some sort of like this. I think that will be the proper way, yeah. Now I need to measure from the highest point to the bottom 1.5 something pencil, right? And across 1.5. So that's what I said. Visually, our pumpkin will fit into a square. And so at this moment we will forget about pumpkin, and we need to place this square within our artboard. So that is our first step. This is our artboard. So we split it in our head. Find the middle, so we don't need to put this in the middle. And our square, if it would be in the middle, it will be somewhere here. But in our case, we need to shift it somewhere. What I reckon, it looks that shadow is just like here, but I would slightly upgrade this picture, and I will make shadow stretched a little bit this way, because I can locate the highlight. So I reckon that the light comes from this way, and therefore it has to be some shadow there. Perhaps because of the second light source, when this object was photographed, it killed the shadow, but in real life it would be nicer to have it here. So we imagine we have it. Therefore, based on our assumption, we need to move our boundary box slightly off center towards the left, okay, and slightly higher up. So that will be our future location for pumpkin. In other words, when we will do pumpkin, it will be something like this. And now your composition is perfectly balanced, okay? Whether if it would be here, then a visual kind of point of attention will be moved towards the left, and it kind of disbalancing the picture. Okay, so that is the important thing. Also, when you operate with the only relative dimensions, it's always easy. You can work with any type, any size of artboard, whatever. There is no restriction, because there is no precise measurement. You operating only with relative dimensions. So, for instance, if I say my pumpkin, the whole way from here to the tip of the stem will be that high, so by placing it this way, I am defining the bottom margin and the top margin. They are different. Already slightly moved it towards the left. So keeping in mind that our boundary box is a square, now we have already height. All we need to do is just measure it and place it horizontally. I can use anything to transfer that, like this, for instance. So I hope it does make perfect sense. Then I will just, you don't have to do this, I mean drawing this box. It's just like for more visualization of what's going to happen. Okay, so now we know exactly where and how our future pumpkin will be located. So I have to squeeze it within this frame. So that's it. You're not going anywhere else. Perfectly composition, balanced. We know all the measurements, and now we can draw it. Now, the only one little thing before we go directly to the drawing, a couple of words about the shape. This is three-dimensional shape, right? And there is some of the parts of it we don't see. I'm talking about the bottom. It's somewhere there. Somewhere there. We don't see it. It directly under that bit, somewhere there. Why we need it? Because all these lines starting here, we can see where they start. but we don't see where they end. And if you imagine, I'm going to continue to draw this, it has to go somewhere there. So that's my points. For instance, we'll look at this shape, oval. There is no, very simple. Then we locate the point where the stem sits, has to be there somewhere, and would be nice if we locate the bottom, which is invisible. Imagine this is transparent, and all our lines now will make sense. So we can draw them like that. You see? And then when we finished, all we need to do is just erase anything that's not supposed to be seen, and that's it. Our shape is nearly perfect. Okay, so now I will start drawing the stuff. So I'm making this kind of oval. Not a rocket science at all. I have to make sure to leave some room for my stem. So this top, that line, supposed to end somewhere maybe on third of the height. Okay, because of this. Then how to locate this point? It's very easy. All we need to do is just measure distance from here to there and see how many these measurements can fit in the defined already shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means if I split that distance into 4 pieces, well, roughly. So I would, knowing that my stem starting from here somewhere. So then I will mark that bottom point will be erased. So I will do the stem straight away. It has some fancy shape here, rounded, removing invisible lines, like this, and from that point I will be making all these sections. So I will start with this one. That line goes somewhere there. Then this one. It also doesn't stop here. It goes somewhere there. All lines supposed to go somewhere. If you just because visually your eye of the viewer will notice if something odd within the shape. If this line, instead of going here, going somewhere there. So that kind of logic. Okay. So then that line goes also there, but it stops somewhere here. We don't see anywhere that it goes. So I will make some rough idea. So it stops here. So then the other one there, that section there, this one, this kind of gets now that part covering the bottom of the stem. Important, we need to do that. So section bit by bit. thing and this one. Okay, so basic sketch is done. From this moment I will put this aside and I'm gonna clean it and bring it to a workable condition. What I need to do with my eraser, I am first erasing everything that will not be seen or renders invisible. Then I will lighten up all the lines to the condition I can barely see them. So, but it's still visible to me. And then I will rework everything with the fine pencil. So that is important. Line supposed to be crisp without any imperfections, because these lines will be final. So at this time I can pay attention to all imperfections on the lines, because as you can see they're not actually straight, they're kind of bumpy. I have to do this. A little mistake, I will fix it. We'll fix it now. And here I've noticed that that line goes very close to this line. That makes more sense now. I will go this way. Just continue to work all the lines here. Okay. Now at this stage, sketching is done. That's it. We forget about anything else, because highlights, shape of the highlights, position of the highlights, we don't draw it with pencil. No. Okay, it will be done with the brush. Same on the stem, all the highlights, forget about this. Also, that rule applies for the shadow. We don't draw cast shadow. Okay, so at this moment this is done, and our next stop, color matching, making the first underpainting and then painting.